Good evening and welcome to Here's My Two Cents with me, your host, Keith, 2 Cents Sanders. We're live all over the place as usual. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're live on ramtv.live. I'm live on TikTok over here. We got a good number of people. If you guys want, you can head on over to Facebook. Check us out, Right America Media on Facebook. Glad to be here with you guys. Hectic day. A lot going on. Big week, bigger day. The man himself has risen with us so close to Easter in the way that some people perceive Biden. Yes, I use that phrase on purpose. He has risen. He has come forth. He has brought us truth, maybe not from the heavens as someone else did with tablets, but he just about did, at least the way that he was treated. He came down with nothing but truth for us and just bestowed it upon us. And us plebes and us simple people just begging for the morsels. Please, Papa Joe. Please, Papa Joe. Please tell me something. Please tell me something. And how I also need to see it. It was as if the groundhog had come out from his slumber and had finally just meandered his way out and took a little peek, and he was warmly welcomed. And they said, "Come here, Papa Joe. Come here, Papa Joe. It's okay. We're going to be nice to you, Papa Joe." I mean, there was leaked correspondence that said they did not want any pushback on this president in his first press conference, which, mind you, is 63 days into his presidency. You're going to hear this phrase a lot today. Can you imagine if this were Trump? Please, I want you to put blinders on through the show today, insert Trump into the situation, and see if this is the same situation that we would have had with this presidency. The media, we've talked about this before, their complicity and how they've been complicit in this presidency and him getting away with absolutely whatever he wants. He promised to be Mr. Transparency, and he has been anything but. The press did anything but press him. The kids at the border are in anything but cages. The Dems want common sense gun reform. And here's my 2 cents on government solves all your problems. Big topic of the day. I've already made my jokes about it. Big topic of the day. First time we get to hear from Papa Joe. I'll start off with, I would say, an 8 out of 10 on the Joe performs scale. I think he meandered a fair amount. I don't want to fall into the trap of relativity here. I don't want to feel like, well, he didn't have too many times where he just meandered off into the nowhere. So that's an improvement. I'm not going to give him that credit. And he definitely completely lost his train of thought one time. He just fully did one of those ones he did at the debate, as I stutter myself, at the debate where he would just start talking and then just, okay, I'll just give it back to you. I'm out of time. He didn't go so far as to say that he was out of time, but he definitely on multiple occasions said, I've gone too far into detail. No one's going to stop you, Joe. No one's going to stop you. You can do all the talking you like. We don't hear from you. I know Jen Psaki likes to say that the president has some 40 plus question and answer sessions. I've showed this to you previously on my show. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. You can go on my YouTube channel. Here's My 2 Cents on YouTube. I have a library of all my podcasts up over there. I like to see you guys over there as well. Check out Here's My 2 Cents on YouTube. I like to see you subscribe over there. That would be nice. Jen Psaki has said there's been some 40 plus question and answer sessions. And by question and answer sessions, she means people scream questions and Joe Biden doesn't answer them. Those are question and answer sessions as the handlers in the room, and I do mean handlers, say, all right, folks, time to go. All right, folks, time to go. These are question and answer sessions. So you can see why people have been waiting and chomping at the bit for their opportunity to finally ask questions to the leader of the free world, to ask questions to the most powerful human being on the planet, and expect and demand answers. Because don't forget, friends, don't forget out there, just because he's the most powerful man in the world, it's not because of him. It's because of us. This government exists and is given the power to govern through the consent of us. So when he is up there, he is absolutely representing us. If you voted for him or if you didn't vote for him, he represents all of America. He works for us. He has the power that he has to be the most powerful man, the most influential person on the planet. If he had more of a backbone, he would probably fill that. But I digress. He has this power because of us, because of the consent we have given to him in order to govern us. Now, I've shown you all those times previously, like I was mentioning, and everything that Psaki has to say. I went online on my social media, actually on TikTok specifically, and I posed the question: if you voted for Trump, if you voted for Biden or you voted against Trump, and you believed him, Biden that is, and you believed him that he was going to be transparent after 63 days of no press conferences, 40 plus question and answer sessions where he doesn't answer any questions. You feeling bamboozled? Are you feeling stupid? If I was looking at Trump, let's say I was a former Trump supporter, and I go, I just don't like his approach. He's a bully. He's mean. I don't like him. I don't like the tweets. I don't like the way he treats other people. I can't vote for Trump again. And I got Biden over here. I know that guy. He's a pretty nice guy. Yeah, he's telling me he's going to be transparent. I like transparency. I don't like the tweets, but I like the transparency. Yeah, I like that. I could go for that. Maybe I could hold my nose on the policy because he's going to be transparent while he's doing it. There's still some level of accountability there. Wouldn't you feel kind of stupid at this point? I would feel kind of stupid at this point. There's no transparency, folks. There's none. And the sycophants, big word of the day, number one, the sycophants in the media are not going to do anything. We're going to get into that a little bit later. They're starting to get a bit antsy. They're chomping at the bit just a little bit, just like a little bit. Now, this may be towards an ultimate goal later on. Your boy has made a prediction. This is not misinformation or disinformation. Don't take me off of YouTube for saying this. I just have a prediction that Joe Biden's not going to make it a year. I can have an opinion. My opinion is I don't think that he's got the wherewithal to make it. I think that some things are being put in place so that way we get used to the idea. For example, go on to whitehouse.gov. It is the Biden-Harris administration. Not the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration. Look at all the correspondence. It's Biden-Harris. Little subtle things they do to get you used to it. You see Vice President Harris often speak at the presidential podium, the one with the presidential seal. Just little ways of getting used to it. We know, and it's been reported on, that Kamala Harris, the vice president, has been taking phone calls with foreign leaders, just so you're used to it. Now, the president accidentally referred to her as the president. I'll give him a slip up, but it was a funny bit. He referred to her as President Harris. A little too soon, Joe. A little bit too soon. October, buddy. Remember, we talked about this. It's October. Now he's got her handling the crisis at the border. First one, imagine if this were Trump. Oh, you don't have to imagine if this were Trump. When Trump put Pence in charge of the COVID crisis, if you will, the pandemic that happened last year, they said that he wasn't a strong leader. He wasn't conveying a message of strength. He couldn't handle it. He wasn't taking it seriously. Does that apply here? Nope, doesn't apply here. Vice President Harris, she's going to handle it, just like Joe Biden did when he was vice president. He wants to tout how he stopped the flow and he reduced the number of people. I'll get into a little bit more of that later as well. There were some good ideas there. You know me, I don't always bash on Joe. I 99% of the time bash on Joe, but that does qualify as not all the time. Back to whether or not this man is transparent. He's not. He's just not. Is he trustworthy? I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. I don't know because he's not transparent, because we don't know anything of what's going on. I can go off of what I do know. I know he's a 47-year politician. Does anybody know any politicians that have been in office in some form or another for 47 years and they're known as honest? I don't know any. Apparently, I know one. Must be Papa Joe. He's as trustworthy as they get. Just listen to the media. They're the ones who are going to tell you how absolutely transparent the man is and how trustworthy he is. But now, like I said earlier, they're getting a little antsy themselves. I don't know what you thought you guys were going to get. I don't know what people who voted for him really thought they were going to get. Did you believe that he was a moderate? Did you believe he was a moderate? Which is to say he was going to work with the other side, which is to say he wasn't going to succumb to the far left. He wasn't going to push socialist ideas. He wasn't going to push for a mass influx of people over the border. Did you guys really think this is what you were getting? When you've got Jake Tapper himself saying that this is not transparency, you've got a little bit of a problem. You've got a little bit of a problem. So the calls for transparency have been swelling and swelling and swelling. So finally, we get the big presser. If you didn't get to see it, and I forgive you if you didn't, your boy was there. I watched the whole thing. Let me tell you what you missed. You missed the press being downright apologetic in their approach if and when they barely press him on anything. You had him blaming Trump for absolutely everything. You had some meandering, and you also had the press reminding him what the questions were. This is what you had at the press conference. The big topic at the press conference obviously was the crisis at the border. And of course, this is a crisis. I'll get into that. Just give me 1 second on that one. But what I found really interesting was you had the shootings that happened in Atlanta and Boulder, Colorado, Atlanta, Georgia, Boulder, Colorado. I'm trying to remember. I don't know if we got any of that. I'll go back into this a little bit. And I think it's because they have a narrative problem on that one. I want to talk about that one in a bit as well. You also have the Andrew Cuomo Me Too allegations that are going on. Nothing going on there. And yet almost everything that we had was on the border. You have HR 1, which I told my folks over here on TikTok, we're going to talk about it tonight. HR 1 is essentially the Democrats' approach to a lack of faith in the security of our elections. HR 1 is passed the House. You have S1 in the Senate. And these are massive overhauls to the way that we do elections in this country. And we didn't get to any of it. But we did get to the crisis at the border. And of course, identifying it as a crisis is important. Look no further than number 45, who said you have to correctly identify the problem in order to address the problem. If you have Islamic terrorism, you must address Islamic terrorism. He caught a lot of flack on that one. Caught a lot of flack on everything, obviously. We have to address what the problem is. I'll give you an example. Let's say my roof fails, completely rots out. Okay, bad roof, get a new roof. Replace it. Roof goes bad again. Wow, I got another bad roof. Fix the roof. Roof goes bad again. Turns out, problem is not a bad roof. Problem is I have termites and they're eating my roof. If I keep addressing bad roof and fixing it, I'm going to continue to have to fix it because I have not addressed the actual problem. In this situation, this make-believe situation, my roof is bad. I address the wrong problem. Same situation here. If we don't address what the actual problem is, that it is a crisis. Are you overflowed? That's one level of response. Is the overflow lasted too long and we don't have the manning? That's a different response. If it is a crisis at the border to which you cannot adequately apply the law and adequately move these people to where they need to be to get them in and out of the system as efficiently as the law mandates, you have a crisis. If you're approaching it as a big problem, if you're approaching it as an obstacle or anything other than a crisis, you're going to keep getting a rotted roof. We have to know what the problem is here. Pointing the finger at Trump by saying, well, the numbers were going up over Trump, which somehow correlates to that's why the numbers are going up now. That doesn't do anything. Speaking of talking about Trump being the cause here and the numbers going up, I've had a lot of people on social media say, well, the numbers were going up under Trump. There was a spike under Trump. Okay, how does that have anything to do with what's going on right now? Well, it went up under Trump, so it's not Biden's fault. Biden's the president. Biden has put in place policies which are affecting what's going on at the border. Biden has removed policies which is affecting what's going on at the border. But if we could somehow say, well, Trump had numbers that were going up, so that must be why they're going up now. Correlation does not mean causation. For example, more people have ice cream in the summer. More people get sunburned in the summer. Ice cream causes sunburn. See? That's what we're doing here. Correlation equals causation. That's not what happened here. Let's look at what is actually happening. Let's identify it correctly. Let's approach it correctly. I was on Council of Colonels, which you all can find Tuesday nights at 7:30 here on ramtv.live or on Right America Media on Facebook. And I was speaking with them on Tuesday, And I mentioned to them that we have to be able to address this correctly, or else we're not going to be able to do it. And I'm going to keep harping on this. This is really important that we understand that we have to approach these problems for what they are. Joe today gave a little speech when he started off. He wanted to point at Trump a lot throughout it. He did want to tout some facts while he was talking. Did he get spoken over? Did he get debated with by the press? Was he constantly interrupted? Of course not. Absolutely, of course not. He wanted to point out in his presser today how these numbers went up under Trump, but what he left out was, how did Trump address it? He did not bring up that Trump put in place what's called the Remain in Mexico plan, where Trump worked out with Mexico, hey, when I catch these guys coming over illegally, they're going back to you. That's known as a deterrent, Joe. That's known as a way to keep people from doing something. If they know there's a consequence, less people are likely to try to break that law. Joe wanted to repeatedly today mention how folks don't want to just upsell everything they have, make this huge trek and come to America. They're leaving a bad situation. Well, Joe, if they have a deterrent, like, I don't know, a wall and laws that are enforced and mandates in place that make them stay in Mexico, you're going to have less people that are going to up and sell their stuff and make the journey because life is bad where they are. Call me cruel. Sounds like it. I'm listening to myself talk. Call me cruel. It comes to a fundamental question of what is our responsibility to these other places. I understand we have the means to help. And to Joe's credit, he did talk about how he worked directly with the people of these other countries. For example, I'll give him some credit today. He didn't work directly with the government of Honduras, I think is what he cited. He worked with the localities in order to put up more streetlights because their studies showed that more streetlights lowered crime. So what he did there was he bypassed the corrupt government in order to get money in there. Not a terrible plan. However, how much of that is truly our responsibility? And I guess in this representative government, we could, I don't know, pass some laws where people who represent us can go there and pass laws, or we could just have one person who decides, I'm going to spend $86 million on a hotel. He's spending $86 million on hotels, by the way, because of how over capacity they are at the border. Even though in the presser today, he wants to say that he's sending these people back. He's sending them back. Well, the $86 million for the homeless that are going into the hotels would say you're not sending them back, Joe. It just feels like it to me. When you have a catch and release, but you're not calling it catch and release, doesn't feel like you're sending them back to me, Joe. When you have a 1,556% overcapacity for the children's holding centers, not kids in cages, I'll show you more of that later, not kids in cages, that doesn't seem to me like you're sending people back. And back to the $86 million. Does anyone else here love that out of nowhere, the president can just go, here's $86 million. I thought that the Congress controlled the money. Where'd that money come from? How do they do that? Call me ignorant. I feel really ignorant. Where'd that money come from? I have no idea. But about $86 million. How? And did the press ask? Nope. If you missed it, the press didn't ask. They surely did not ask. I just want to know how they do it. How do they just come up with this money? We have separation of powers. One of those powers is the power of the purse. It goes to the Congress. But the executive branch, boom, $86 million. How about some transparency, Joe? Can you trace that for me? Can you say I pulled it from this budget that was approved? Can you say that it came out from this law from here, that I have the authority as the commander-in-chief? Can you do something for us, Joe? Because all you've told us, and the press didn't hold you to account, was pull $86 million out of thin air and use it for people who are here illegally. Don't mind the homeless that we have here. Don't mind the homeless veterans that we have here. We have people that are coming across illegally. They need a place to stay. Back to the border crisis. When the media starts covering you, Joe, and saying that you've got a problem with transparency, you've got a real problem, Joe. Juan, can you please play for me cut 4? Let's see what it's like for these children in these facilities.
More kids coming into U.S. custody, but just not enough space to put them in shelter. So that means that these kids are staying in Border Patrol facility for prolonged periods of time. And those are facilities that are not intended for them. They look like jail-like conditions, like prison cells with concrete walls and concrete benches. And these kids are spending more than the 3-day limit that they're supposed to, according to federal law. So the administration racing here to find enough space for these kids.
Jail-like conditions, not kids in cages. I told you we were going to talk about this later. Not kids in cages, everyone. Jail-like conditions. Did you see the strain as she said the administration is racing to address this problem? Did anybody ever do that for Trump when he had to race to fix a problem, to come in to help people out? When he brought in the naval ship, I think it was called the Mercy, into New York, and everyone said he couldn't do it, and he was able to work with the local authorities there and then got that ship in, which they didn't even use anyway, but it was quite the undertaking to get it there. Did anyone say he's racing to address this problem? Of course not. But when Joe has kids in jail-like conditions, not kids in cages, when you have them in jail-like conditions, then of course you have to strain and you have to show the empathy. Like, you must embody the empathy of Papa Joe. We have more coming up on that soon. We have a lot more on this, actually. Last week we did, here's my 2 cents on the press or gross. Here's more of it. I told you then, I'm telling you now, I could do this topic every single week. Maybe I'll just reference it every week just to show you how right I am. But they did not disappoint me this week. They absolutely did not disappoint. I just ask for some level of objectivity. Do this thing, they used to call it reporting. Let's hear about a topic, let's investigate it, and then we can report on it to people. Let's hold people to account. Let's hold the powerful to account. Now, am I advocating, I mentioned it earlier, am I advocating that I want them to yell and scream over the president or his press secretary, or to debate with him, or to cut him off, or to do that thing that Jim Acosta did where he would just keep repeating the same question, keep repeating the same question, keep repeating the same question? I don't want that, actually. I want an open and honest dialogue. The open part is I ask you questions and then you answer them. When you say things that aren't necessarily in line with maybe what I have found, I then come back with, well, I'm hearing you say this portion. What is that? It sounds mundane and silly that I have to say this out loud, but it would just be so nice, especially if you identify in the same party or ideology as the person you're covering. Hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. Let's see how they've been holding them accountable and how they've been objective. Juan, please play for me cut 5.
We have spoken with several migrants over the last several days, Andrea, both on this side of the border and over in Mexico, in Matamoros, Mexico, that said that they were encouraged by the change in administration. Many of them didn't know the specifics of President Biden's border policies, but what they did know is that he was not President Trump. And some of them did feel that now would be the time to come to the border.
Sorry about that. I was interacting over here. Did you hear the way he put a little context into that? I love context. I love context. You know what context is? I talk about it all the time. Context is, let me tell you how to see this. The context he threw in there was he did a tiny bit of reporting. He did a little bit of reporting when he said, well, they're telling us on this side and on the other side that, yeah, they're coming here because of Joe, not necessarily knowing his policies to help out Joe. We must help him out at all costs. Why don't you just say, we've been specifically told they're coming here because of Joe Biden, full stop. Why are you assigning any more to it? Any more to it? Why? Be objective. I asked the man a question. This is what he told me. He's basically covering for him. He had to insert his own portion there. He couldn't just tell us. He couldn't just tell us. Biden has everything to do with this. Biden has everything to do with this. Despite what he said in his presser today, that it was going up under Trump. Trump had spikes as well himself. Oh, no, I dropped my phone. Sorry about that, guys. Let me get this set up over here. All right, we're back. These things happen. Back to what Biden has said and done. He wants to go up there during his presser and say, well, they're coming here because I'm a nice guy. No, Joe, no. They're coming here because of your policies. They're coming here because they know you got rid of the Remain in Mexico mandate. I'd already talked about it earlier. Trump said, if I catch you coming over, you're going back to Mexico. You got rid of that, Joe. Day one, Joe, day one, you got rid of that. They know you're taking in all the children. There was a story one of the reporters told, and I call absolute BS, 100% BS. This reporter said that she had talked to a 9 and 10-year-old who had walked here from Honduras by themselves. Does anyone trust their 9-year-old to walk to the corner store and make it back? You're telling me a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, you said go that way until you hit America, and they did. And nothing horrible happened to them. I won't say what they are. I'll let you fill in the blanks. They were able to find food, shelter, water. 9 and 10-year-old. Someone tell me you would trust your child to walk to the corner store and back. Now, Joe Biden's going to say, people on the other side are going to say, they're so desperate. They're so desperate. Okay, but is there incentive on the other side, Joe? Is there an incentive to send your child north? Then Joe says, well, they stick a phone number on a bracelet. They stick a phone number in their pocket. Great. Thank you for giving them more ways to ensure the kid is going to come over the border. They keep wanting to say, who would do that? And then in the other breath, say, they're doing it because it's so bad there. Well, which one is it, Joe? Would you not do it or would you do it? And if there's an incentive on the other side, which is they know you're taking in the children, and once the children are on the other side, they've got a phone number, and guess what? That phone number goes back to mom. Joe in the presser says, we'll probably send that kid back. Right, Joe. Right. Joe does want to address the overpopulation in Donna, Texas, specifically, which I'm going to show you guys here in a little bit. And he wants to say that he's now opening up, I believe it's Fort Bliss, which is in El Paso. And now, if you come over and you get caught, you're going to get to go to Fort Bliss where you get some nice accommodations. I mean, they're not the best. It's an Army base. I'm an Air Force guy. I got to tease you guys a little bit. I mean, it's not an Air Force base, but they're still going to get the accommodations. They know that they're going to be able to come over. And you can't, I've said it before, you can't continue to be Trump's fault. Your Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Mayorkas himself, has said it's an increase from last year. How can there be an increase, Joe, if it's the fault of the guy who's not there? You cannot have an increase if the guy isn't there and it be his fault. You're the president now, Joe, at least on paper. For now, you're the president and you promised to be transparent. Let me give you one more on this. Juan, can you please play for me cut 6?
Biden administration kept talking about transparency, and we're not getting any transparency here with what is happening at the border, that we have to get those images from a congressman who won't say where he got those images. It's very frustrating for not just journalists, but for the American public who want to know what's going on inside those facilities, those disturbing images.
All jokes aside, it's messed up. It's messed up what's going on at the border. And I do a lot of finger pointing. However, it goes back to when I say we have to identify what the problem is, and we also have to identify who is going to fix it. And right now we're being told it's going to be Kamala Harris, our VP. That's who I'm told is going to solve it. The media needs to do their job, please, to some degree. Please hold these people accountable. This is a terrible situation that is going on down at the border. And you have a part in this, media. You have a part in this. Why do you accept an answer of not today when you ask for access? Why do you accept that answer? Why? This is a absolutely horrible situation. And in a free society, which is governed by the people, we demand to see it. We demand it, and you produce it. You don't get to stand up there, Joseph R. Biden, and say, not now, not now. I'm going to show you that direct quote here in a little bit. I'm going to show you that. I want to introduce you to Project Veritas. If you don't know who Project Veritas is, it's an organization ran by James O'Keefe, and he does investigative journalism, and so does his outlet. He was actually congratulated by the president himself recently because Project Veritas had a lawsuit against the New York Times, which they won, and then they'll go to the next step from there. But they actually did the work. I see. Hey, thank you for the present over here. You guys are awesome. Project Veritas did the work to find out what was going on inside those cages. Did the media do it? Nope. Sure didn't. Project Veritas was able to get some imagery. Juan, can you please play for me cut 7 and make sure that my mic is still up, please? I'd like to narrate over this one. Look, more. Separation like my kid has to do at school. Look at this. Look at all this. Not kids in cages. Definitely not kids in cages. Not kids in cages here, right, folks? All right, Juan, bring it back to me. Bring it back to me. There I am. There's your not kids in cages, folks. Not kids in cages, right? I mean, they told us they're not cages and they're plexiglass and there's no bars and chain link. Yeah, not kids in cages. It's just summer camp. Sleeping on the floor on top of each other. The CDC keeps changing the guidelines for them. Meanwhile, schools have to keep 3 feet of separation or 6 feet of separation. I get yelled at if I stand within 6 feet of somebody at the subway, but these kids who aren't tested are sleeping on the floor on top of each other in a pod in jail-like conditions. Sorry, in jail-like conditions, as they told me it was called. Here it comes again. Imagine if it were Trump. You don't even have to imagine. You do not even have to imagine if this were Trump in those exact same facilities. Those exact same facilities. When Trump had children in there, they were called concentration camps. There's a hack POS, human piece of garbage named Joe Scarborough over on MSNBC. He was saying at the time that, I see your presence over there, you guys are awesome. He was saying at the time that the children were being marched into showers. Absolutely, horrifically disgusting. Now, I can't talk about what he means there. And if you know, hey, you guys are awesome over here. Thank you for all the presents. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I want you to look it up. I can't say it here. Why? Because I want to stay on. Joe Scarborough can say horrible, disgusting things like this. Joe Scarborough can make analogies to children being marched to the showers, but I'm going to talk around it. I want you to look up what happened in Europe in the 1930s to a certain demographic. That's what he's referencing. I can't say it. I'm going to remain vague. Thank you so much over here. I'm going to remain vague because I would like to stay on. During the presser, they were asked if they could see the facilities. And in previous interviews that I've mentioned, Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas has said no. You want to know the reason he gave? Take a quick guess. Take a quick guess. I see you over here. Take a quick guess. The reason. COVID. So those pictures I just showed you of the children sleeping on top of each other, some tested, some not, some positive, some not. I think they're separating them. I'll give them some credit. I've seen some pictures where I think they separate them. But that being said, we can't go in there because of COVID. But the kids can all be on top of each other. They can be at 1,556% capacity, living in the same COVID world that I'm living in. But I can't go in there. You can't go in there. You're going crazy over here. The press can't go in there because of COVID. The children are sleeping on top of each other. Let's get to the actual presser. I've hinted around it a lot. I have some clips for you. We did a lot of work. I see you, Mikey. I think I got your name correct. Thank you so much over here. If you guys don't follow me on TikTok, find me at 2centksj. Juan, throw that up there for me, please. At 2centksj on TikTok. The guys are going crazy over here. So are the gals. I appreciate all of you. Let me set the scene for you. I need to set the stage. I got about 20 minutes left. I promised you I would get to HR1. It will happen today. I promise you. I promise you it'll happen. And if you know me, if I promise it, it'll definitely happen. I'm going to surmise for you what the press conference was in just a few words. A crap show, staged, rigged, BS, waste of time, and choreographed nonsense. When I show you a clip here in a second, you're going to see him going down a list. He had a list of names that he would talk to. Now, if that was because he had the questions already or not, I don't know that. But I can say it gives a bad impression. I can say it's not being very transparent when it looks like that. It matters, Joe. It matters. Oh my, he's going crazy over here. If you guys don't follow me, you need to follow me. Also, like I mentioned earlier, he lost track a couple of times. I don't want to go around giving him credit because it wasn't a lot. He lost track a couple of times. He meandered a whole lot. The press did have to remind him multiple times what the topic was. He went around the filibuster a few times. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. And then there was how the questions were phrased. Multiple times when talking about laws that are being passed at the state level, they were phrased, and I'm going to paraphrase here, they were phrased in a way to denigrate the Republicans, big word number 2, and then to tout Biden himself as the savior. For example, and I paraphrase, don't take me down for misquoting, I'm paraphrasing. Republicans are passing laws to restrict voting rights. Are they? Are they? It's to restrict voting rights? Or do you mean securing the election through voter ID laws? Through verifying the voter rolls? From ensuring those that are voting are legally voting? Is that restricting voting rights? But they get to, they're still going crazy over here. They get to say to their woke readers, look how woke I am. I'm not going to bend to these evil Republicans, these dirty, dirty Republicans. It's disgusting and I can't stand it, but we had to see a lot of it. The border was pretty much everything. You've heard me talk a lot about it today, but lack of transparency was brought up as well. Juan, could you please play for me cut 8? Let's see what they talked about on transparency.
Okay, Kristen.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Given the conditions that were just laid out at the migrant facilities at the U.S. border, will you commit to allowing journalists to have access to the facilities that are overcrowded moving forward?
I will commit when my plan very shortly is underway to let you have access to not just them, but to other facilities as well.
How soon will journalists be able to have access to the facilities? We've obviously been allowed to be inside one, but we haven't seen the facilities in which children are packed together to really give the American people a chance to see that. Will you commit to transparency on this issue?
I will commit to transparency, and as soon as I am in a position to be able to implement what we're doing right now.
That's that list I was talking about. Doesn't look so good, Joe. It doesn't look so good. You look like a puppet, Joe. You look like someone told you what to say. He had stacks of not only note cards, but papers, another notebook, another list. I mean, kudos for being prepared and I guess putting on the best image that you could. But Joe, you look like a puppet. You look like you're not in command of anything. Now let's get to the topic of transparency in that video. Are you going to be transparent? Yeah, when I'm ready. You going to let us do it soon? When I want to. As soon as what I have in play, I think is what he said, or I'm doing what I'm doing now, something that didn't make any sense. He wants to tell you, when I look good, then you can have all the transparency that you like. As soon as I look good, as soon as I get this looking real nice, something real nice, name the movie. As soon as he gets it looking good, then you guys can come on in. That was it. That was the pushback. That was probably the biggest pushback that happened in the entirety of that whole press conference. Asking once, can I see it? Getting a BS answer and asking basically the same question the second time, getting the same answer in a louder voice. So he meant it. He meant it. He did that several times yesterday. When I was watching it, I had a true cliched WTF. And also a cliched, and it hurts me and it's cringy to say it, to go, honestly? Honestly, Joe? Who cares if your plans are in place, buddy? Who cares if the measures that you want to put in place have not yet taken effect? Joe, I hope your measures are great. I hope it's all sorted out. I'm not rooting for you to fail, buddy. If you're failing, I'm failing. I'm rooting for you to succeed, Joe. I really want your policies to work. I don't care if your policies haven't come into play yet. Joe, if we can't see the problem, we can't fix the problem. You don't just get to go on TV when things look better, Joe. Be transparent, buddy. Stand up. And this is what I was talking about on Council of Colonels that you guys can find 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday nights. It would have been a great moment for Joe or Kamala to say, you know what, folks? We inherited a tough situation. Give a bone to your side. Not really my fault. We inherited a tough situation. We're putting policies in place. We're putting measures in place. We're putting people on the ground. We're making changes. We're going to show you what we're doing. Here's what we're doing. Here's how we're going forward. I'd listen. I'd give them a shot. Would you give them a shot? I would. But instead we get, when I'm ready. Joe, the kids are in there now, buddy. They're in there now. Not later. Not later. They're in there now. They're being housed now. Show us now, Joe, not later. We deserve to know. We put you there. You work for us, as I've mentioned before. We want to know. The border wasn't everything today. The press conference was obviously everything. I had a whole other show for you guys planned for tonight. We had a lot. I put a lot into this yesterday. I was actually pretty tired yesterday after putting this show together for you guys. And then the press conference happened. I knew it was going to happen, but I was kind of hoping that it might have lasted 15 minutes and he'd give me an easy day. But he wasn't going to give me an easy day today. He talked about China as well. And it's important. It's important for him to talk about China. I think he did more meandering when it came to China. I think he did more patting of his own back, saying that he has a great relationship with President Xi. Actually, he had some very nice words to say for President Xi. Juan, can you please play for me cut 9? Let's hear what he had to say about President Xi.
And the third thing, and the thing that I admire about dealing with Xi is he understands. He makes no pretense about not understanding what I'm saying any more than I do him.
You admire him. How he's cozying up to dictators. He's a fan of despots and tyrants. That's what they said about President Trump when he was trying to work with North Korea. It's probably the same application. I'll be honest and say it's probably the same application. He's probably trying to have a good diplomatic relationship, and you probably should have a good diplomatic relationship. But back to the press, he's cozying up to dictators. He admires him, a despot, a tyrant. This is what we have in the office. Impeach, right? Am I crazy? I'm probably crazy. I know that. But I watched it for 5 years. The exact same situation. Just some bit. Again, I don't want them yelling and screaming at him. I don't want them playing the same games, but I still get to complain. I get to complain, right? I want to complain. I'm going to complain a little bit about it. But I'll tell you what, CNN, MSNBC, this is why your numbers are tanking. Tanking. Good old Brian Stelter had his worst week ever. Joy Reid's show, tanking. MSNBC as a whole, tanking. CNN, tanking. It's kind of hard when you don't have sources say, and if true, and if true. It's real hard to peddle what you have when you don't have a boogeyman at all times. When you and everyone you know on TV all get the same talking points, you get to say the same things and not be held accountable for any of them. I'm going to go over a couple more of the big ones. Then I promised you we're going to get to HR1. We're going to get to HR1. Let me talk to you a little bit more about some of the bigger ones that Joe Biden had to talk about. He wanted to talk about how when the kids come over, they're going to be treated humanely. Joe, yes, it is good to be humane. However, you're giving incentive. This is incentive. They know if my kid can get there, if my 9-year-old can walk 1,000 miles and get over the border by themselves, I have an opportunity to potentially get over. Joe also wanted to say, we're sending back singles. We're sending back families. You're going to have a real hard time on the left if they find out that you're sending back families, Joe. And it doesn't look like you're sending back families. It doesn't look like you're sending back families when you're releasing people to the United States, when there are reports that are showing that you're releasing some people into the United States without a date to return. Not that they're going to come back anyway, but it doesn't look like you're doing that, Joe. You talk about wanting to put in something in place where they would have to stay in Mexico. That's called Title 42. It was put in place by Donald J. Trump, the Remain in Mexico clause, which you signed out of executive order on day one, Joe. You had that policy in place, buddy. You had that policy in place. You want to talk about how nobody's just going to up and sell other stuff and move here if they don't absolutely have to. I said it before. I'll say it again. Stop giving them incentive. Okay, do you guys feel like we've talked about it enough? I think we beat this dead horse until it's glue. To quote a colleague of mine, I think we have absolutely beat this one up. Let's get into HR 1. I promise you, here comes HR 1. What is HR 1? HR 1, in my opinion, a summation, this is an opinion, is the Democrats' response to a lack of faith in the security of our elections. Polling has showed that some 86%, I believe, of Republicans have lost faith in the electoral process. And when you take into account the Democrats who have lost faith, you have a majority of people in this country have lost faith in the electoral process. I am not saying widespread voter fraud. I'm not talking about voter fraud. Don't take me down. I am talking about people losing faith. So not to give up an opportunity to grab power, not to give up an opportunity to centralize more of the government in DC, the Democrats said, we have an idea, we'll handle it. Now, I mentioned this live on TikTok beforehand. Juan, throw it up there at 2CentKSJ. Follow me over there. This is their way of grabbing more power in the federal elections. The Constitution says the states get to do it. They're going to try to pass a law, which they did in the House already, that says they get more centralized control. If you had lost faith in the election, or if potentially you're a Trump supporter, I'm not saying widespread voter fraud, if you're a Trump supporter who didn't necessarily believe everything you were being told, all the reasons that made you feel that way are in this bill. No voter ID necessary, universal mail-in ballots, and less accountability when it comes to the voting and the vote counting process. Less of it. I've got some, let me pull up an article here for you. CNN did a fact check. Gotta love when they do fact checks. They got fact check breaking down 10 claims with the Democrats' election bill. Let me give you a couple of them. They first have to set the stage for you. They always have to set the stage for you. Republicans, this was written by, so I don't get in trouble, Daniel Dale, Holmes Librand, and Tara Submarian. I hope I said your name correctly. I'm terrible. I know that. I'm an awful person. Republicans have attacked the bill, also known as HR 1 in its House form and S1 in the Senate, as a partisan power grab, I just said that will damage the country's democracy. Democrats have argued the bill is needed to preserve democracy in the face of widespread Republican efforts to restrict access to voting. I mentioned this earlier. They want to debunk the topic of undocumented immigrants and voter registration. Ted Cruz of Texas claimed, quote, under this bill, there's automatic registration of anybody. If you get a driver's license, if you get welfare payment, if you get unemployment payment, if you attend a public university, everyone knows there's millions of people here illegally who have driver's licenses. Fact check, because CNN tells us facts first. It's not true that the bill automatically registers anybody to vote. Yep, you got them. You got them. You got them. Square, right here. You nailed them. They go on to say the bill does not change current law banning people who aren't U.S. citizens, including undocumented immigrants, you mean illegal aliens, from registering to vote in the federal election, while the bill does require every state to adopt an automatic voter registration system. So you do have to automatically register everyone, or you don't. But it repeatedly makes clear that only citizens are eligible to be registered. However, you just told me that you're going to automatically register these people who have licenses. And we also know that you can get a license in these states. California comes to mind. You're going to tell me both of them at the exact same time. Let's get another one that they want to fact check. Topic here. This is all in HR 1, folks. This is HR 1. This has passed the House already. The House of Representatives has already passed this. Registration for 16-year-olds. West Virginia Secretary of State Mark Warner, a Republican, have to get that in there, expressed concerns about the automatic voter registration provisions, which I just talked about. Warner warned that the bill, quote, overrules checks and balances in our election security. It mandates automatic voter registration, including 16-year-olds. 16-year-olds, folks. Facts first. This needs context. There it is. Yes, my favorite. Context. I've talked to you about context in the past. Context, which is I'm going to give you some information, but I need you to see it a certain way. That's what this means. When they say, I need to give you context, they give you the lens through which you need to see this. So they tell you, this needs context. While it is true that the bill would require states to allow individuals as young as 16 to register to vote, the text explicitly says that nothing in the bill requires the states to do it. Got them again. You got them again. You guys are good. They go on to say, and that the bill has no effect on states' own voting age requirements. So which one is it? You affect the requirement if you allow it to be 16, then you have affected it. The policy of registering people before they turn 18, but not yet allowing them to vote, known as pre-registration, already exists in several states. So we might as well do more of it. I love it. It's also when they want to raise taxes. Well, you already have some taxes, so what's a little more? Or when they say you have some social nets out there, so what's some socialism? If it's a little bit's okay, then a little more is okay. And they always want to go there with it. Criminals in the vote. I'm going to give you one more. There's a lot more. I promised you I would get to it. I'm going to do some more for you next week. Maybe Papa Joe will go back into his hole and we won't see him for another 60 days and I'll have some more time to talk about some other things. Criminals and the vote. This bill, quote, is designed to get criminals to vote, said Cruz. This bill says if you're a murderer, if you're a rapist, if you're a child molester, we, the Democrats, want you voting. Facts first. And guess what they start off with? This needs context. The bill would not force states to allow incarcerated felons to vote. It would require states to allow people who committed felonies to vote once they are no longer incarcerated. So once you're out, you're not forcing the states to let them vote, but you're forcing them to let them vote. Am I fact-checking the fact check? Does this make any sense at all? One more time. Here we go. The bill would not force states to allow incarcerated felons to vote. It would require states to, okay, I got it. So if you're inside and you're a felon, no vote. Well, we don't want that. But if you are, as Senator Cruz said, if you are a murderer, if you are a rapist, if you are a child molester, then you get to vote. It seems like that's exactly what this is. Okay, we're going to do a lot more of that next week. Stick around for more of that. I've got a couple minutes left. I really want to wind it down with, I try to be positive. I do. I try to be positive. We have our fun around here. I get a lot of feedback from people that say they like my approach, that I kind of say it with a smile. I am disturbed by a lot of what's going on. Something I preach a lot is 2022, folks. It's called the midterm elections. And I press this all the time. And if you get anything from me, I'm not saying I'm worth that much. I'm worth a lot. But if you get anything from me, I want you to get this. The midterm elections, 2020 was one of the most important elections we've ever had. 2022 may be more important. The speed at which they are passing generational changes is neck-breaking. It is neck-breaking. Schumer, to his words, said, buckle up. He wasn't lying. It's neck-breaking, and they know they have 2 years to do it. They have 2 years to do it. Because in 2022, we have the midterm election. Now, folks, I'm not trying to pander or to talk down to anyone. I just want to make sure that we all are on the same page. You have 2016, 2020, 2024. That's when the president is up for election. You also have a lot of other elections at the same time. However, in the midterms, which would have been 18, 22, 26, and so on, you have every single person in the House of Representatives, senators from the Senate, governors, local city councils, everything in between. Some of them are also up for election. Now, what usually happens, and this could work in our favor, what usually happens is whoever has the White House, this time it's the Democrats, usually they get a lower voter turnout in the midterm. This is our time to strike. This is when we tell our friends, do not sleep on 2022. This is when we get out the vote. This is when we vote out the rhinos. This is when we listen to number 45 and we vote in strong conservatives. We don't just vote in names that we know. We vote in strong conservatives. We vote out the rhinos. We vote out the Democrats. And we take back the House and we take back the Senate. And then we finally get those checks and balances back in play. That's when we can absolutely do it. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Thank you for being over here on my live TikTok. I'll be with you guys in a second and we can talk. And with all that being said, this has been my 2 cents. Have a good night, everyone.
Hey, this is Josh Barnes with Point of View, where we discuss the crucial questions that you have about the critical issues of our day from a biblical worldview. We believe that to be right about issues, you're going to have to be biblical about issues. Check out Point of View every Monday from 4 to 6 p.m. and every Tuesday night from 8 to 8:30 right here on Right America Media Network at ramtv.live. Join us for the next episode of Point of View and let the Bible change your perspective.
America. My name is Savannah Lynn, and I'm the host of a political commentary podcast called The Savvy Truth. If you love God, love your family, and you love this country, you can tune in at Right American Media on Facebook or at ramtv.live. This podcast airs 7 Eastern and 6 Central.
It is necessary to purge the establishment.
What she's suggesting that churches do, focus on.
That's not necessarily a good thing to start with.
They're stating it wasn't around when we needed the greatest generation of the 30s or 40s. It
happened before the election because there's too many Republicans that are afraid that their wrongdoing is going to.
It's unacceptable, and I'm not going to sit here, stay silent, and not call it out. I'm calling out the lies.
With rules for Thanksgiving, who the hell is he to tell us what we're supposed to do?
Do they think that we are so stupid that we will not notice and find out?